Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Northern Kentucky Spotlight Podcast presented by CVG. I'm your host, Sarah Brookbank. And I know I say this all the time, but today we have an absolutely jam-packed episode of the podcast. I mean, really, just listen to today's guests. First up, we are joined by Catrena Bowman of Inspired Fashion and the Northern Kentucky Community Action Commission, and Tracy Stokes of St. Elizabeth, who highlight the 2023 Women's Initiative Regional Summit sponsored by PNC, which is happening on Thursday, November 2nd. Their presentation, Collaboration Over Competition, Elevating Your Business with Sister Friends, will kick off another exciting summit. After that, I am joined by David Wallace of Heritage Bank, who gives us the scoop on the first meeting of the Florence Business Council. That is happening this week at 11:30 a.m. on Thursday, October 19th at Turfway Park Racing and Gaming. Then on NKY at Work, our special guest host, Ashleigh DuBois, is joined by Christopher Johnson, the new Vice President of DEI at St. Elizabeth. Like I said, absolutely jam-packed this week. Thank you to our podcast sponsors, CVG, our title sponsor, C-Crew Consulting, our digital sponsor, and our episode sponsor, Horan. Now, let's go hear from those sponsors, meet our members of the week, and Ashleigh and I will be back with this week's guests.
Why would you travel to England?
For football.
To go or not to go?
That is an easy question.
To visit the land of Shakespeare.
To take in all the sights.
Authentic fish and chips.
To experience arts and culture.
2 words, British Open.
To visit my family.
Same reason I go anywhere. For a pint of beer. To start my trip through Europe.
Whatever your reason, there's no better time than now.
Ranking on Google Search and Maps is easy to understand, but hard to do. It requires constant effort and attention, uploading new photos, responding to Google reviews, writing weekly posts, and checking suggested updates. Google listing optimization takes experience and time, and there are no shortcuts. C-Crew gives your Google My Business account the steady, consistent attention it needs to be effective, optimizing, updating, and expanding critical content every single week. From local retail stores to large regional networks, C-Crew generates content, establishes benchmarks, and creates dramatic, measurable increases in engagement. So what can C-Crew do for your business? More calls, more clicks, more clients.
Congratulations to our members of the week. You can learn more about these businesses by following the Northern Kentucky Chamber on social media, where we will highlight one of these businesses each day. Now, let's meet our members of the week. Colonel D Gourmet Herbs and Spices has more than 17 years of experience providing retail and wholesale sales of culinary herbs and spices. Citrullo Law is primarily an insurance and litigation firm with highly seasoned, sought-after attorneys currently practicing in many facets of law. Jordan Carmack, communication coach, provides leadership training that highlights the power of authentic communication to create creative, engaged, and confident teams. For 29 years, Reception Event Centers has been hosting a wide variety of events, from wedding receptions to company meetings. Truist Arena is a flexible 9,000-seat multi-purpose arena located on the campus of Northern Kentucky University. Hi, everyone. Today on the podcast, we are joined by Catrena Bowman, and you are with the Northern Kentucky Community Action Commission, and Tracy Stokes with St. Elizabeth. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. We are talking about the Women's Initiative Regional Summit coming up here on November 2nd. Very excited for that. But you two are our morning session speakers. You are kicking off the day. I am so excited. So tell me a little bit about your presentation and what you guys are going to be covering.
So we're going to be talking about collaboration over competition. And I thought this was good for us, Catrena, because we have talked about how it's so much better to work in sisterhood rather than competition, because there's room for all of us.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. And like she said, we don't have to compete. When we collaborate, we're so much better. We have better thoughts. We have better outcomes when we come together, because we all have different vantage points. And when those are all working together, you never know what synergy is going to come from that and how great it's going to be.
Yeah, that is so important. I think that's one of the nicest things about the Women's Initiative, and that we have this section of the chamber where it's just for women, meeting other women and working together. So touch a little bit on what this presentation will go through and what people can expect from it.
So we'll talk a little bit about the why, working together with others is important. We'll talk about maybe some statistics to have the women understand that not a lot of women are in entrepreneurship, even though we are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs, in the country. So we want to talk about that and really empower women, number one, to make connections, number two, to not be afraid.
Yes, and that's exactly what I was going to say. So many times we're afraid to share. We're afraid to say, I need help. We're afraid to say, oh my God, you're doing such a good job over there. Let me come and see and be a part of that. And so we really have to be able to take off that mask and really be ourselves, be comfortable in who we are enough to reach out to another woman and say, hey, I need some of what you got.
Yeah. And I think that, our relationship has been cool because we support each other. Yes. And I think I want to tell a little bit of that story too, right? Yeah. Supporting each other, coming to events, each other's events, and really understanding that you grow better together, right? And when you're networking and when you are supporting your sister, that's supporting yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think so often, especially as women, when we're in these spaces where maybe there aren't other women around us, you look for other women to lead that way and to mentor you. Yeah. Obviously, you guys are much more closer than maybe a mentor-mentee relationship, but the whole segment or the whole event is focused on that mentorship idea too, and the collaboration is so important in that. How have you guys had mentorship impact your life?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we do have a friendship, but Catrena is the best mentor. She is the best. I might not say it, but the things that she does with her business and with Northern Kentucky, I'm like, I can do that. And I think a lot of times I'm getting a little teary.
My friend.
And I think it's so dope to have women, I might not say it, but I watch you, right?
Oh, wow.
And I remember what you say, like, Catrena, I used to wear the biggest clothes, and Catrena said, girl, you're going to dress for who you are on the inside and stand with confidence. Yes. And I really have not forgotten that, 3 years ago? Yeah. And so I think that you can have mentors in places that you might not even think. And it's so important to find someone that you want to emulate. Find someone that's doing something that you want to do. I don't necessarily want to have a boutique, but I want to have a successful business. Right. And so finding someone who you can model is it's the dopest feeling, and it's the greatest thing. So
yes, and that's so sweet. Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
And it's being able to again, going back to that fear, getting over that fear of saying, I see this woman and let me connect with her, because more than likely 9 times out of 10, that woman is going to want to connect with you. I love our friendship. I love what we have. And so it's even, regardless if you're a mentor or a mentee, you're both learning, you're both growing, you're both evolving and becoming better.
Yeah, that is so important and so cool. I love that I get to have both of you on the podcast to talk about your relationship and this presentation. I think it'll be really fun. You two are both just wonderful people doing great work in our community. And I've had Catrena on the podcast a while ago, and Tracy, you've been on different segments that I've been able to film. And it's so wonderful just hearing those conversations, learning from your experiences, and being able to spread that out to the rest of our membership. So I really am excited for this morning session. I think it's going to be the greatest kickoff to this event that's happening.
And don't tell them what we'll do now. It's going to be interactive and fun.
It is.
It's going to be a lot of fun to be interactive. Hey, we might have you jumping over glow sticks, but don't tell them what we're going to do.
No, I won't, but I will say, if you've been to annual breakfast, you'll know Catrena is our MC for that event and always does a fantastic job. I love the Women's Initiative events. And one of the things that you guys touched on is like that importance and like the camaraderie of like knowing other women and being able to emulate and look up to someone. I really think that is so important. As someone, I recently, a couple years ago, switched to working at a woman-owned business where there are a lot of women in the workplace.
Yeah.
And just being able, like you said, even if it's not the same exact path that you want to take, but knowing that you can look up to other women and find that path for yourself that, is similar in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
So as you guys have, had these journeys, leading organizations and doing great work, what's something that you think that you'll be able to share with our audiences that they'll be able to take away from your presentation based off your journeys?
I think one thing along with mentorship is coaching too. When I moved into, and we talked a lot about this, when I moved into that executive level position, I needed a coach because you don't know everything. As you're moving into a position, if you become a CEO or an executive, you are not fully that yet. You're stepping into the role, but you've got to become that. So having a coach that can sort of help lead you and guide you through that process is just invaluable, because when you're in, especially that senior position, you can't really depend on your staff, or it's a different level. So having a coach, someone you can bounce things off of and talk to and say, oh, now I'm ready to fire everybody. I'm ready, Tracy, everybody. And they're like, well, you probably don't need to do that. Right. So I always recommend to get a coach.
And I would say, in my situation, I was a single mom for a very long time. So I kind of had to wait for my kids to get out of the house so that I can really begin looking at, okay, where do I want my career to go? And so I would say, no matter how old you are, what your circumstances are, keep dreaming. Keep writing that dream down, keep telling your story, keep marching towards the mark, right? Because you are called for so much. And if you stop, you're never going to get there. So it doesn't matter if you're in your 40s or if you're in your 50s, you can still achieve your dreams. So
yes, it's so true. Like Tracy said, assess where you are. A lot of times we get frustrated because we want to be 10 steps ahead, but it's not time for that yet.
Right.
When I stepped into this executive director role, I couldn't do that when my kids were little. There's no way I'd be able to travel and do all of these things. So I wanted to do that in my 30s and 40s, but it wasn't time.
Yes.
So just because something is delayed doesn't mean it's denied.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, well, this is such a beautiful preview of what people can expect at Regional Summit. That is happening on November 2nd at Megacorp Pavilion, and you can register for that event now at nkychamber.com/events. But ladies, before I let you go, is there anything else you would like to add about this presentation and the upcoming event?
I think it's for everybody. It's for all women at all levels. I think that's one really good thing about the Chamber is our presentation. No matter if you're frontline, if you're executive, if you're a middle manager, there will be something there that applies to you.
Yeah, and I would say get ready to have some fun.
Yes, 100%.
Yes, ma'am.
For sure.
Well, awesome, ladies. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Today on the podcast, I am joined by David Wallace, who is the Chairman and CEO of Heritage Bank, and you are the chair of our new Florence Business Council.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a great thing for me to do. I'm so honored that they've asked me to be the inaugural chairman of the Florence Business Council. And we're just looking forward to great things in the future for it.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. It launches October 19th. But before we get into the date and the timing of everything, tell us, what is the Florence Business Council?
Right. The Florence Business Council is a group of businessmen in the Florence community. One of the things I think in Northern Kentucky that we don't think about a lot is, Florence has more businesses than any community in Northern Kentucky. There's over 2,000 businesses that are located in the city of Florence. And this is just a way for businesses to get together, to stay up to date on what's going on in the community, in the area, in the Northern Kentucky area, and, to help advocate for a lot of the things that they're doing that businesses need.
Yeah, that is crazy to think about, the density of businesses in Florence. But if you've spent any time in Florence, as I have, there are so many businesses. Obviously, we have the Mall Road District and that whole area that is just very densely packed with businesses, but all up and down 42. There are so many local small businesses that could really use a community, and this is kind of fulfilling that need.
Absolutely. It's there for business. It's going to be there for businesses. We hope to replicate this. I know that working with the Northern Kentucky Chamber, that we are hoping to replicate this. Fort Thomas is already active, and I think it's a way for us to come together with a lot of different of these organizations and the communities in Northern Kentucky and create one voice.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what businesses can expect when they join the Business Council. Like, what's in it for businesses?
Well, the big thing in it for businesses is the ability, like with a lot of events like this, is just to get together and network and meet other people in the business community in Florence. Also, to learn about what is going on in the city of Florence with economic development, road projects, political, legislative issues. There's just going to be a large gamut of things that are covered. You know, we intend this to be a monthly meeting. It's a lunch meeting. It'll start about 11:30, end about 1 o'clock. So it's not going to take too much time. This will be a monthly meeting on Thursdays, and we hope that I think it'll be the third Thursday of each month. Probably going to do these at least 10 of the 12 months starting out.
That sounds very exciting. It's a good opportunity for businesses, like you said, over lunch to come in. I know at the first meeting on October 19th, Mayor Abishan is going to speak. Right. So for those who are interested in this, who is this open to, and how can people get involved?
Listen, it's open to any business person in the Florence area. To be honest, anybody in Northern Kentucky. We're not going to we're not going to turn you away. We're not checking IDs to make sure you're from Florence. So no, any business person, but especially those in the Florence is who we're hoping to get in. Now it's going to be if you're already a chamber member, then membership is included in your chamber membership. Now, if you don't want to be a chamber member, that's okay too. There'll be $100 a year membership fee to be involved in the Florence Business Council, and that's just to help us offset the mailing cost and other administrative costs that are going to come around. And of course, like many other of the events that are happening throughout Northern Kentucky, the lunch will be provided, but there will be a charge for that. I think for this time, non-members of the chamber are $25. Members of the chamber are $15.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Obviously, we would encourage you all to be chamber members. That is the best deal. You get access to so much stuff as a chamber member. And I'm sure, obviously, most of our viewers and listeners today are members. Sure. So we're excited to add this as another benefit. Right. Like you said, we're trying to expand this effort to business or to cities across Northern Kentucky. For you, as a business leader in the community, what are you looking forward to most with this?
I think it's to listen. For me, in my business, in the banking business, it's for me to listen to see what the needs of business people are in our local community. You know, being a community bank, we need to be listening on that local level. That's what I'm looking forward to. It's just hearing and meeting the business people in the Florence area that maybe we don't know yet. And I think there's tons of networking opportunities, but also, hearing from the mayor, hearing from the economic development director in Florence, hearing from the transportation cabinet. There's been a lot of road projects going on now in Northern Kentucky. Seems like there's one big one down by the river somewhere. It's getting ready to start. So
yeah, there may be one starting across
So there's just a lot of benefits, and again, I think it's just meeting, and I think we can do it much better on a more local level, and then bring all those voices together as one as these process matures in the organizations between the different cities.
Yeah, I think that is so great that we're launching this initiative, and I'm very excited to hear more about how this one goes and see how the Fort Thomas Business Council also starts to meet. So for those interested in attending the first meeting, can you share some details about it?
Yeah, so it's going to be October 19th, 11:30 to about 1. It's going to be at the new Turfway racing facility. Beautiful, beautiful place to go. Their meeting room is second to none. So that's where it's going to be. There will be a meal provided. We will have the mayor speaking. We'll have someone from the transportation cabinet speaking that day. So we will recognize that day the oldest continuous business in Florence.
Are you going to spoil that for us, or do you have to be there to attend to get the scoop on that?
Well, I don't think it's a big secret. We will be recognizing Florence Hardware. Florence Hardware has been there for a long time and has been a member of that Florence business community for many, many years. And we're going to recognize them. And we'll have some other things going on, too, during the program.
Yeah, well, that sounds so great. For anyone who is interested in learning more, they can visit nkychamber.com/business councils, or there's more information on our social media pages. David, before I let you go, is there anything else you'd like to share about the Business Council and how people can get involved?
Well, I think that's the big thing is getting involved. With anything, any of these organizations, we just want people to get involved, to be involved in the community, to meet other businesses in the community, business people, and to learn about what we can do also to make the communities better and the business community better for all of us. We live in challenging times, and the more we can work together and know about what's going on in our community in politics or the business areas, I think it's always the best thing for us.
Yeah. Well, David, thank you again for joining the podcast. We appreciate it, and we'll see you on October 19th at Florence Business Council meeting.
All right. Thanks.
Welcome to the Northern Kentucky at Work Podcast Spotlight. I am your host, Ashleigh DuBois, and I am joined with Chris Johnson, Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at St. Elizabeth Healthcare. Would you prefer to go by Chris or Christopher?
Chris. I'm only Christopher when I've done something wrong.
Okay.
I haven't done anything wrong yet, I hope.
Good. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here.
We are so excited that you're here, actually.
Yes, we're super excited.
So you make me nervous.
No, this is going to be good. Because we know that the position was withheld or no one was in it for almost a year. So can you talk to us a little bit about your transition to St. Elizabeth and why you chose Northern Kentucky?
Well, so I chose Northern Kentucky because there's a couple reasons. One, this is a really fast-growing region, actually, as you know. So that presents some really interesting and unique opportunities. Yeah. Now you pair that with St. Elizabeth Healthcare and the history that they have in this region, the history they have for serving people, the mission, the values of the organization. It's a real opportunity for me to do some things at scale in a way that's really going to benefit the whole of a population that really, really deserves it, I think. So to me, that's the reason to be here. It's really also just a unique opportunity, I think. This is, serving in healthcare, it's mission-based, it's mission-focused. And so that presents some interesting opportunities for us to serve people, people who deserve it, but serve our teammates as well inside the same organization. So, that's why I'm here.
So for those who don't know, are you over St. Elizabeth Healthcare and physicians? Because they're kind of separate, but operate as usually as one larger entity.
So that's a really good question. This opportunity, as it's been reimagined now, really has influence over both the healthcare organization, the hospital system, and our network of physicians and providers. And so it's an awesome chance, I think, to marry what has been, some issues in terms of two separate organizations. Continuing to come together. It's an opportunity to marry those missions with a DEI lens, or what we traditionally call DEI.
And so with St. Elizabeth being a Catholic organization, so very much so living in the space of faith, how do you see the DEI work and faith really coming together to walk alongside each other? Because some would say we wouldn't need it in a faith-based space.
Well, I mean, if you think about, at least in terms of how I view faith, it's about serving each other, right? And serving our people and doing for people the best that we can do to help them to be and to bring their highest selves, whether that be, in their professional setting and certainly as they live life every single day, right? And so as I think about it, doing this DEI work now for longer than I care to admit, it's been almost 18 years now, this really is about helping people to be and bring their highest and best selves. That's what DEI is. Make no mistake, we hear a lot of stuff out there about what this work is and where it's going. And some of that, is valid. I'll say that. But I think at the end of the day, if we're doing this the right way, we're helping people to do everything that they can do to be and bring their best selves to their day-to-day being, their day-to-day existence. That's what this is about for me. And so, I think that answers the question. It's about helping people be people, right, and to serve people in a way that's going to benefit the whole of them, a whole person health care, but also service to the community too. So.
I love it. You had said something earlier about the fastest growing region. So we kind of talked that a little bit, right? It can be both exciting and then pose some challenges. Yeah. What challenges are you and the healthcare system seeing as we are bringing a lot more people to this region every day?
Well, so the region is changing, right? As this region continues to grow, so with that comes a dynamic, a shifting demographic that means that we're going to have to serve people in a way that maybe we're not used to. That maybe there's a cadre of individuals who we may not be used to having here, and we've got to think about how we serve them. We've got to think about ensuring that when I talk about whole person care, whole person health care is a part of it. But think about as people transition into a region, right, or transitioning into living in a place, in and around a place that maybe they're not used to being. We've got to think about that differently. So, thinking about the challenges, that's a challenge. Thinking about making this the most inclusive place that we can, that means we've got to think differently. We've got to move differently. We've got to acknowledge some of our blind spots, acknowledge areas where we can be more culturally intelligent. We talk about that a lot at St. E. We've got to acknowledge that and do the best that we can to help our colleagues, our friends, our families to embrace that, because this thing ain't changing, right? We're going to continue to move. It's going to continue to shift. And if we want to be about what we talk about, we want to walk our talk, and then it's about being as inclusive as possible. So that's our challenge. You mentioned it, it's a tremendous opportunity too, but we've got to be mindful of what comes with that opportunity.
And so we recently had a study released that said Northern Kentucky we have about 400,000 in terms of population. But 350,000 of that is white alone. So we talk about the region shifting, but 50,000 people or less, which the number can sound big to some and very small to others. In comparison to 350,000, it's pretty small. But that number is changing, and we know that not everyone is in that number. We have a huge influx of immigrants coming here from all types of countries. We have Kentucky Refugee Ministries here, and so they are federally funded, and so we are having immigrants come on a different type of visa or asylum status. So we know that everybody is not in that number, but it's still kind of small. So when we say that the region is changing, but people can look around and still live in very insular neighborhoods, and they can go to the same doctor that their parents went to, or you know what I mean? Like the generation that we pass down is both the beauty of Northern Kentucky, but I also think sometimes poses a challenge to Northern Kentucky because they don't see what we are seeing every single day as we do this work. What would you say to those people who can look around their neighborhood and say, it hasn't changed for me?
I think there's a level of, I'm going to answer that differently, and I'm curious about your thoughts. There's a level of intellectual curiosity that I think we've got to engage in.
That's good.
That I think helps us to see things or helps us to understand things that maybe we cannot see or that we haven't seen yet. One of the things, Ashleigh, that I pride myself on and that really disappoints me at the same time is that there is not enough, in my mind, intellectual curiosity. There's not enough of an impetus, an urge, sort of a call to dig deeper, to think more broadly. I don't know what you think, but I see that just in terms of my everyday, and I think that's part of what I would say to people. If they can't, if they're struggling to see where the change is, or maybe it isn't real to them or hasn't manifested itself yet, I think there's a level of responsibility we have to dig a little deeper.
I agree, and I would take it a step further. So we're very much like a big city, small town kind of thing. And people say that about everywhere. But in Northern Kentucky, you're about 2 degrees separation.
I've heard that.
We don't have 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's 2 degrees of separation.
I've seen a lot of that already.
So relationships are extremely important. And when you think about building relationships with people, we naturally gravitate to our comfort zone. So if you ever read the book, Why Do All the Black Kids Sit Together in the Cafeteria? Phenomenal book. But the study essentially says we go where we are the most comfortable. Well, if there's not many of us, then I'm going to stay here. And so I think for the majority population, they stay in their own, right? But if we have to build relationships so that curiosity could be sparked, it's not sparked if I don't see it, because my lived experiences are very normal. They're very safe. They're very comfortable. And so going through an experience, they say, we want to get you outside of your comfort zone, but not into your panic zone. So I don't want people to panic. but I do want them to be curious. But in order to do that, we would have to start building a relationship. And so I think a lot of it is getting people out of their comfort zones, but not getting them to their panic zone.
But you know what? It's important. I love that panic zone analogy. I love that. I think it's important for us to also realize that, we don't know what we don't know. And sometimes what we don't know causes us to feel a way, even if we don't realize it. And so I think there's a little, maybe what I'm trying to say is there's a little bit of a two-way street here. There is some of a need to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, but there's also, I think on the other side of this, an understanding that we have to have also that people oftentimes don't know what they don't know. And that scares people. I do believe in the goodness of people. It's one of the reasons why I'm serving in a healthcare organization now. People, I think for the most part, want to do the right thing. They want to make sure people feel welcome. They want to give people a sense of belonging and comfort. But that didn't come easy. And so your point around making sure we don't push people into the panic zone, I think is really, really important. I like that a lot.
So take that one back.
I will. I will attribute it to you for sure.
Thank you. In the next 3 to 5 years, what should we be focusing on?
So there's a couple of things. I think the first thing that I would think about is really expanding that notion of what inclusion looks and feels like.
Okay.
Inclusion isn't just about welcoming the new teammate or the new employee. We've also got to think about the families. We got to think about the wives or husbands and kids, and maybe it's grandmothers and cousins even, as we think about the continuing shift and influx of new faces and voices into the region. So, connecting people to businesses, to barbershops, to schools, to daycares. That's what inclusion in action looks like.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, too, that's really important is really helping organizations to embrace this notion of transparency and authenticity and being willing to talk about the things that maybe we haven't always been willing to talk about, letting people in. I always like to say it this way, letting people into how the sausage is being made, even if we don't have a fully baked solution. There's so many people that I've worked with, so many executives that I've worked with over my career that we want to have the answer fully baked before we talk about it, before we unveil this new, brand new, shiny solution. I think in 2023 and 24 and the next 10 and 12 years beyond that, people really need to have a window into that sausage making process. And I think in some ways it helps people to feel more comfortable, more confident that their organization cares about them if we're willing to pull that veil back just a little bit. I think those are two key pieces. There are other things that we need to think about, making sure that people are connected to strong mentors and sponsors in their organizations. Really thinking about, again, people's personal and professional development, not as separate, but as sort of one and the same or certainly intricately connected. So, there's lots of work to do. That's the beautiful thing, as you know, about being in roles like this. And so I look at it as a huge opportunity. We've got work to do, but we got a lot of people in this region that are willing to do it.
Okay, and then one last question I'm going to ask you. Did we welcome you in Northern Kentucky?
Listen, this has been a phenomenal experience, Ashleigh. And I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you. You have been one of the key reasons why it's been such a great experience over the course of the first 60, 65 days here.
That's it?
I know.
It feels like you've been here forever.
I tell people all the time, I've only been here probably 2.5 months, but ask me how long it feels.
Yeah.
It depends on what day you ask me. But no, it's been a phenomenal experience. Listen, I'll be candid. We've still got work to do, even in terms of my own experience. But I think that just underscores the importance of continuing to drill down on the work that we're doing, not running away from it, acknowledging some of what we hear externally, not running away from it, but being recommitted, doubling and tripling down, because it's the right thing to do for our people and for this region as we continue to grow.
Yeah. I love it. We're glad you're here. Thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Absolutely.
Come on back anytime.
Anytime you have me, I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Northern Kentucky at Work.
Hi, I'm Shannon Schumacher, Account Executive, Kentucky Market Leader. At Haran, we champion bold innovation to help employers and individuals thrive. As an industry thought leader, we explore new horizons in healthcare, benefits, employee engagement, and wellness. We work harder to deliver all the strategic benefits, planning, and execution you expect from a true partner. And we do it with laser focus on your short and long-term outcomes to help manage your benefits while improving your employee experience.
Thank you all so much for tuning into the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed hearing from all of our great guests. You can get your tickets for the Women's Initiative Regional Summit at nkychamber.com/events. That is taking place on Thursday, November 2nd at Megacorp Pavilion. And Catrena and Tracy have one of many great presentations you will not want to miss out. You can learn more about the first meeting of the Florence Business Council, as well as the next meeting of the Fort Thomas Business Council at nkychamber.com/business council. Thank you so much to our podcast sponsors, CVG, C Crew Consulting, and Haran. Finally, if you are a member who would like to be featured on the Northern Kentucky Spotlight Podcast, or if you're someone who is interested in becoming a member of the Northern Kentucky Chamber, please reach out to Lynn Ablin. And if you're someone who is interested in sharing your workforce strategies and resources on NKY at Work, please reach out to Nancy Spivey. You can find their contact information on the screen in front of you or at our staff directory at nkychamber.com. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys next week.